You've done everything right. You picked a sunny spot. You bought healthy plants from the nursery. You watered them consistently. You added fresh compost to the bed. You did exactly what the plant tag said to do. And then, spring came. You walked outside, expecting green shoots and the beginning of another season. And they were gone. Not struggling. Not a little weak. Gone. And the worst part? You still don't know why. Here's what I'm going to tell you today that nobody else will. The reason your perennials keep dying has nothing to do with your soil, your fertilizer, or how much sun they're getting. It has everything to do with something happening at the base of that plant. Something invisible, something completely silent, and something that most gardeners in the US will never catch until it is already too late. By the time this video is over, you will know exactly what it is, how to diagnose it in your own garden in under 5 minutes, and how to stop it from ever taking another plant from you again. I've been growing perennials for years, and I will be completely honest with you. I lost plant after plant before I finally figured this out. I blamed the soil. I blamed the weather. I blamed myself. I bought different fertilizer, different varieties, tried different locations. Nothing worked until I stopped looking at the leaves and started looking at the crown. That single shift changed everything. But before I show you what I found, I need to talk about the mistake you're probably already making right now, because chances are you've done it this season without even knowing it. Let's start with what you think is killing your perennials. When a perennial dies, most gardeners go through the same checklist. Bad soil, so they add compost. Wrong pH, so they test and amend. Not enough drainage, so they loosen the bed. Too much shade, so they move it to a sunnier spot. Wrong fertilizer, so they switch brands and try again. And every spring, the same heartbreaking result. Here's the painful truth that nobody in the gardening world wants to say out loud. None of those are the real reason. Not even close. The plants you're losing aren't dying because of what's happening above the ground. They're dying because of what's happening right at the soil line, at a part of the plant called the crown. Most gardeners have never even heard the word crown used this way. But once you understand it, you will never look at a perennial the same way again. The crown is the point where the roots meet the stems. It's the central command center of the entire plant. New shoots emerge from the crown every single spring. Energy reserves are stored in the crown through winter. If something goes wrong at the crown, the whole plant goes down. Period. No exceptions. No second chances. And here is the terrifying part that I need you to really sit with. The crown could be actively rotting right now, today, while your plant still looks perfectly healthy above ground. You could be walking past a dying plant every single day and have absolutely no idea. Crown rot is caused by soil-borne pathogens. Fungi with names like Phytophthora, Fusarium, and Rhizoctonia. These organisms live in your garden soil permanently. They don't disappear between seasons. You cannot remove them by amending your beds. But they only become lethal under one very specific set of conditions: when the crown stays wet, warm, and oxygen-starved for too long. And when those conditions are met, they move with terrifying speed. Research from horticultural institutions has documented that once crown necrosis spreads more than about 2 centimeters up the stem, survival odds drop below 15%. The pathogen colonizes the vascular system, the plant's internal plumbing, and blocks water transport entirely. The plant looks fine on Monday. By the following week, it has collapsed with no warning. But here is what makes this even more destructive. The symptoms it creates fool you completely into making things worse. A plant with crown rot looks exactly like a plant that needs water. It wilts. The leaves turn yellow. It looks dry, stressed, and thirsty. And what do you do when a plant looks like that? You water it more. And that is the exact moment you seal its fate. Watering a plant with crown rot is like giving a drowning person a glass of water. You're not helping them. You are accelerating the precise conditions that are already killing them. More moisture means less oxygen in the soil. Less oxygen means more pathogen activity. The plant doesn't slow down its decline, it speeds it up. And you walk away thinking you were a good gardener when you were actually finishing the job the rot already started. That is the trap. That is the cycle. And it is the reason so many U.S. gardeners feel like perennials simply don't work in their garden, when in reality, They've just never been given this information. So how do you break the cycle? How do you know if this is what's happening right now in your beds? You stop looking at the leaves. You go directly to the crown, and you feel it. Go to your plant right now if you can. Brush back whatever mulch is at the base. Press your fingers gently against the very bottom of the stems, right where they disappear into the soil. Do it firmly enough to feel the texture underneath. The 3 mistakes. If the crown feels firm, cool, and solid, you are in great shape. That plant is alive and healthy at its foundation. If the crown feels soft, spongy, or mushy, there's a problem developing. And if it is discolored, dark brown, or black, or gives off a smell that reminds you of rotting vegetables, the pathogen is already deep inside. That smell is the smell of anaerobic decomposition. That smell means the root system has been without oxygen long enough to begin collapsing. Mistake number 1, planting depth. Healthy crowns are firm. They are pale or cream-colored at the base. They do not smell like anything. That 5-second test will tell you more about your plant's future than any soil amendment, any fertilizer, or any advice on the back of a nursery tag ever could. Now, knowing what crown rot is, that's only half the education. The other half is understanding how you created the conditions for it without ever meaning to. And this is where we need to talk about 3 things that the vast majority of American gardeners are doing completely wrong season after season. The first is planting depth. And this one is so widespread, so common, and so quietly destructive that I believe it is responsible for more lost perennials across the United States than any other single mistake in the garden. Here is a rule I want you to remember for the rest of your gardening life. Plant it high, or it will die. When you put a perennial in the ground, the crown, that meeting point of roots and stems, should sit at or just slightly above the soil surface. Not buried, not even a little buried, at the surface or slightly above it. Most gardeners plant too deep. It's understandable. Digging a hole and backfilling naturally covers the crown slightly. But nurseries do it too. Many of the plants you pick up from garden centers are already planted slightly too deep inside their nursery containers before you even buy them. The crown has been sitting buried in moist potting mix, possibly for weeks, already beginning to weaken before it ever reaches your garden. When the crown is buried, even by an inch or 2, it traps moisture it was never biologically designed to hold. It cuts off the oxygen flow that the root transition zone requires to stay healthy. And it creates exactly the warm, wet, airless microclimate that Phytophthora and Fusarium thrive in. Take peonies as a vivid example, one that frustrates gardeners across every zone. If you plant a peony with its growth buds buried deeper than 2 inches below the soil surface, it will grow. It will come up faithfully every spring. It will produce full, beautiful foliage. But it will never bloom. Year after year, foliage and no flowers. And gardeners blame the variety, blame the light, blame the climate. None of those are wrong. The crown is buried. That's the whole story. Mistake number 2, Mulch Volcano. So when you plant high. Set the root ball so that the crown sits slightly proud of the surrounding soil. That single inch of difference between buried and exposed is the difference between a plant that comes back stronger every year and one that quietly disappears. The second mistake is the mulch volcano, and I guarantee you have seen this within a quarter mile of your house. Walk through any American neighborhood in spring and you'll find it everywhere. Thick mounds of mulch piled up in a cone shape around the base of plants, shrubs, and trees. It looks incredibly tidy. It looks like attentive, conscientious gardening, and it is slowly murdering perennials across the country over the course of 2 to 3 growing seasons. When mulch stays in constant, year-round contact with the crown and lower stems, it traps moisture against tissue that was designed to stay dry. It eliminates airflow at the base of the plant. It builds a warm, wet, dark environment right at the single most vulnerable part of the plant's anatomy. The stem tissue breaks down gradually. Fungal pathogens colonize the weakened area. And by the time you notice something is off, that process has been building quietly for an entire season beneath a layer of what you thought was good gardening. The rule is called the 3-3 rule, and I want you to commit it to memory right now. No more than 3 inches of mulch depth anywhere in the bed. And keep the mulch at least 3 inches back from the crown of every plant you care about. 3 inches deep. 3 inches away from the base. That's it. That's the whole rule. For plants like lavender, sedum, and Russian sage, species that originate in Mediterranean or dry climates, go even further. Switch to a mineral mulch like pea gravel or crushed stone around the crown. Organic mulch holds moisture in a way these plants' root systems are not built to handle. Their crowns evolve in conditions where they dry out quickly between waterings. Keeping them wet at the base doesn't help them. It kills them. Mistake number 3, fall abandonment. The third mistake is what I think of as fall abandonment. And for any gardener in zone 3 through 7, this one might be the precise explanation for why your perennials haven't come back in spring. Here is what happens. Summer ends. The heat breaks. You naturally water less because it feels like the plants don't need as much. Maybe you assume the rain will take care of the rest. Your attention moves indoors, and your perennials go into the freeze-thaw cycle of late fall and winter, already dehydrated, already resource depleted, with roots that haven't stored what they need to survive. This matters because fall is a storage phase for perennials. They are not visibly growing, but underground they are actively pulling moisture and carbohydrates into their root systems to fuel survival through winter. If you stop watering too early, that storage process gets cut short. The plant enters winter compromised, and a winter that should be completely survivable for its hardiness zone becomes quietly lethal. Keep watering your perennials every 7 to 10 days throughout fall, right up until the ground actually freezes hard. Not as deeply or as frequently as summer, but consistently. That autumn hydration is the foundation of a healthy spring comeback. And one more thing for winter, a phenomenon called frost heave that affects gardeners across zones 3 through 6 and almost never gets talked about. Repeated freeze-thaw cycles through late fall and early spring can physically push a perennial's root ball out of the ground. The roots get partially exposed. The crown lifts above the soil surface. The plant essentially ejects itself, and what looks like a perennial that simply didn't come back is actually a plant that was pushed above ground during a single overnight freeze cycle. If you notice your perennials sitting noticeably higher in the bed in spring, that is frost heave. Press them firmly back down and apply proper mulch before the next freeze. Now let's talk about saving the plants you still have. If you caught this early, the crown is soft but still has some firmness. Discoloration is minor and isolated. There is a real rescue window. Stop all watering immediately. Pull every bit of mulch completely away from the crown. Improve drainage in the area around the plant. Allow the soil to dry slightly between any future waterings. And sanitize every tool you use near that plant with 70% isopropyl alcohol before touching any other plant in your garden. Crown rot pathogens spread directly through contaminated soil on tools and gloves. If the crown is fully dark, black, and mushy all the way through to the center, that specific plant is gone. But before you remove it, look closely at the outer edges of the root mass for healthy offsets. Side shoots with firm, pale root tissue attached can be carefully separated, treated with a light dusting of sulfur powder, and replanted into fresh, well-draining soil. That is how you recover something living from a plant that is dying. Now, because I know some of you are done dealing with the stress of problem plants and just want something reliable, here are the perennials that are genuinely, almost stubbornly resistant to crown issues. Black-eyed Susans, echinacea, which most people call coneflowers, Walker's low catmint, which won the Perennial Plant of the Year for good reason, hardy salvias, daylilies, especially the Stella de Oro variety, which blooms from June through frost in most U.S. zones, Russian sage, and hostas, which will grow and return in conditions that would kill nearly any other plant on this list. Build your beds around these. Let them give you the wins while you work on improving your conditions for more demanding varieties. Before you go, one final ask. It will take you about 30 seconds. This season, before you plant anything new and before you top off your mulch, go to every perennial you currently have in the ground. Kneel down. Brush back the mulch from base. Press your fingers to the crown. Firm, You are in excellent shape. That plant is going to have a great year. Soft. Now, you know exactly what to do, and you know it early enough to actually do something about it. Drop your growing zone in the comments right now. I read every single response personally, and I'll be dropping zone-specific advice in the replies this week. And while you're there, tell me the one perennial you've nearly given up on. Drop the plant name below. Let's see if we can bring it back together. If you want a garden full of perennials that come back stronger every single year, not just survive the winter, but actually thrive, subscribe. New fixes, new solutions every single week. And if you're ready for your very next step, I've already made a video covering the longest blooming perennials for U.S. gardens. The ones that give you real color from spring all the way through the first frost. That video is right here. I'll see you there. But wait, before you click away, I want to give you something that almost no gardening video ever includes. There is a specific moment in the season when crown rot is most likely to take hold, and most gardeners don't even know it exists. It's not summer. It's not the dead of winter. It's the shoulder season, those weeks between late spring and early summer when temperatures are warming fast, soil moisture is still high from spring rain, and the days are getting longer. During that window, the soil is warm enough for fungal pathogens to become highly active, but it hasn't had time to dry between rain events. The crown is sitting in the exact conditions Phytophthora loves most, warmth and moisture together simultaneously. And the plant is pushing energy into new growth above ground, which means its defenses are stretched thin. This is the window when crown rot starts. Not in a heat wave, not in a drought. Right there in the pleasant weeks of late May and early June, when your garden looks like it's doing beautifully. What you can do during that window is simple. Inspect your crowns once in the first week of June, especially any plant that was struggling last fall or that you planted new this spring. Feel the base. Check for softness. Pull mulch back. Give his soil a chance to breathe. That one inspection at the right time of year can catch crown rot at the exact stage when intervention still makes a real difference. Now, there's one more thing I want to address because I hear this question every single season, and I want to settle it once and for all. What about perennials in containers? Drop your growing zone in the comments. I read everyone personally and give zone-specific replies each week. Tell me the one perennial you've nearly given up on. Subscribe for new solutions every week. My video on the longest blooming U.S. perennials is right here.